all of my jobs had something more or less to do with me working directly with people, seeing the impact of my labor, and how that rippled into the other people that they then were able to help along the way. So MVP is no different. I help students. I get to see them land the job, grow within, the internship process or with their mentor. And then I also see how they say, I'm going to turn around and do this for other people too.
Welcome to Momentum Now by MVP, the podcast that delves into the stories of seasoned professionals, charismatic leaders, and passionate catalysts. Join us as we explore their career achievements, the challenges they've overcome, and their advice for young professionals of color navigating a fulfilling career journey. Today, our co-hosts Bob Brooks and Karen McFarlane speak with MVP's Executive Director, Miguel Valentin. Miguel shares his dynamic career, the benefits of finding the right mentor, and his work creating lifetime value for the students that MVP supports.
Hello, everyone. We're super excited to have Miguel Valentin here. He's actually the executive director for MVP, Momentum and Value for People of Color. And we're here. It's wonderful to welcome you, Miguel. Karen McFarlane, my co-host, and I, we're so excited to have you. But I should kind of say that this is like your show because you're the executive director. So it's less about being our program and more like being your program.
No. This is your show from beginning. And I am a guest. That is the position that I am taking. But yeah, no, I'm really excited for this. And thank you for having me and for thinking of me to do this.
Miguel, I would feel super remiss if I didn't just pause, if Karen and I didn't pause for a minute and just thank you for everything you've done over the past year or so. It just feels like we have such momentum as an organization because of you. You've done an amazing job with connecting with new organizations, creating value for our MVP fellows, the students who really benefit from everything you're doing. And I just love that you've been able to also manage to navigate a very active and engaged board with all different points of view and get us moving in the same direction. So thank you for all you do for MVP.
Of course. I appreciate that, Bob. And for the people listening, Bob and Karen are on our board as well, and they're fantastic. When Bob talks about the board, he's talking about himself. So,
wait, can I shout out Bob for using the keywords momentum and value in the opening to describe Miguel? So I got to talk about that.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
True board
it's
member.
All about branding.
True board member. So, hey, Miguel, I think we should get started talking all about you. Is that your favorite subject?
Oh, fun. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I all the time, I meet new people for MVP all the time, and they say, oh, let's do introduction. Tell me about yourself. I say, okay, hey, my name is Miguel. So these are the programs we have in MVP. I try to dive right into MVP and negate that whole part of the introduction. But yes,
okay, so maybe part of your advice is going to be the elevator pitch for yourself. So just giving you a little hint.
Yeah.
But before you get to that, you just tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey and, how you got to be executive director, why you even wanted to be executive director of MVP.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. It's a very open-ended question. So I love that. I'll try not to take too long. My journey has been, I think, kind of like a winding river, I think is the analogy I usually use. There's just this one element that's consistent, that water element. And I think for me, my life goal is to do as much good as possible in my life. That I get to the end of it, I look back and the good by far outweighs the bad that I've put out into the world. And so I've worked with a lot of nonprofits. That's kind of the space that it's led me in. I started with music. I studied music throughout high school and college, which is super fun and interesting and not what I do right now at all. But that's what I studied. In that, I love the connection that I had with people, like on stage and just being with them there in that intimate setting. I transitioned into wanting to work more with people. So I started studying pastoral ministry in school. I was religious, when I was a little bit younger. And I did, a lot of counseling, family counseling, marriage counseling. I did youth group stuff, just a bunch of church-esque things, which is a nonprofit and runs the same way a lot of other nonprofits do. Graduated, became a pastor. I did weddings and funerals and worked in the church and did sermons and that whole thing. And was going through seminary, which is your master's degree for being a pastor. Mm-hmm. And 2 years in, really struggled with the idea of God and spoke to a lot of professors and pastors. And that was kind of my whole religious crisis of faith, I guess. And I left the church, withdrew from seminary, moved states, and then just restarted my entire life. And it was a weird time for me. It was, I think, I guess, a darker time where I was trying to figure out what my life was and what my life I wanted it to be moving forward. Had to rebrand myself with new skills and everything. So I worked for an ambulance unit as an operator. I worked in Verizon in sales. I worked in customer service. I was a waiter. I worked so many odd jobs just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But again, I just love nonprofits. I loved working in that space. I found myself in the library. And for me, that was the secular version of a church where I could be a part of a community. I could bring people together under one goal, one mission, to grow, and so and I just loved it. It didn't matter if you were old or young, or if you were white or a person of color, if you were rich or poor, everyone came to the library for that one purpose. And so I found myself there. I grew there. I went back for my master's for information science. I became a full-time librarian. I worked, grant writing, workshop coordinating. I was a teen librarian for a time. I worked with the elderly, doing tech workshops and one-on-one sessions, and just leading that department. And I loved it. I was approached by Christine, who is one of the co-founders of MVP. And she's just like, our EDs, moving on. And we really think that your skills are what MVP needs at this time. Would you consider applying? And I said, no, I love my job. And so I don't know if I can do that. She's like, just like entertain it, just like apply and see what happens. And so I was like, okay, fine, let me see. So I went online to, I think it was like LinkedIn or something where they had posted the job, and there was like 90 applicants. And I was like, why did she tell me to apply to this job? I'm not getting this job. And I applied anyway. And I went through the ringer. Man, the the whole interview process was hard. Bob was involved in it. There was a lot of questions about myself that I didn't want to answer. And we went through the whole thing. And after 3 rounds, they felt it was a good fit for me. Honestly, that process changed my life and my perspective about what it means to give back to my community. So I remember at the end of my interview, I said, hey, whether or not you pick me, just getting ready for these interviews and really thinking about MVP and what you guys are about, I will be involved with MVP in some way or another, whether it's a mentor or a volunteer or the ED. I think there's an organization worth investing in. And so that's kind of how I became the ED. I think that little last bit got me over. They chose me.
Was it, Bob? Was that the little last bit?
Well, I can't. We've not talked about the interview process, but I remember, right? I remember the interview. I remember some of the questions we asked, and clearly you were selected. Yeah. So, why do you think you were selected? And do you think there's something that you did during the process that gave you the upper hand that our listeners might embrace?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the other candidates did, right? When you're going for a position, you could be great, but you don't know who else is competing for that spot. They could be a better fit, and that's just the honest truth. And so for me, I just came from it from that perspective. Am I a right fit for this job at this time? I asked you guys a lot of questions about, what have you guys been doing the past 3 years? Where are you now? What would you have done differently? What are your expectations for this role? And for me, that was the journey for me, just trying to decide if MVP was the right fit for me, because I loved my job. Is it worth me moving into? And then through that process, I shared about what I knew how to do, what I brought to the table, what I wanted to learn about. And it was just being as transparent and honest as possible. And I think people really resonated with that. I think, Tina, who's also a co-founder, got emotional during one of my interviews because she really resonated with the story that I had shared. So it's just being honest, being vulnerable, being open. And at the end of the day, just like any relationship, if it's for you, it'll work out. And if it's not, then there is something else out there for you.
Something you did that the other candidates did not do is that you told very specific stories that leaned into a belief that action matters. And you told stories that and you were very clear on what the results of those actions were. And that's when we were looking at all 3 candidates, there was a very strong belief that you would take action and that you would take something that maybe didn't exist before, and that would be okay that you had done it before, because you brought that out of the interview, that some of the things that you were executing at the library were things that hadn't even existed before you, and you created them. So you basically positioned yourself as a creator. And that's what MVP needed. So boom, here you are.
Thanks for that, Bob. Now I know.
That's fantastic. Actually, that's a very special moment because most people don't know what the triggering moment was, right? Of why they got something or even why they didn't, and that's that's like really good feedback to have to understand what your strength, that gives you a sense of what your strengths are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with that, if I was applying for a job that was, they were well established, they're set in their ways, and the people interviewing me don't want change, I would not have been a good fit for that. I would have been the exact opposite of what they would have wanted. So yeah, thanks, Bob. And for the listeners, Bob is also in charge of my performance review. So I think he's just getting ready for that.
That's right. We'll talk about that later. We don't have time today. Karen, you take it. I know you have several questions.
Listening to you, and you started off the describing your journey as like water, and obviously you went through so many different transitions. I just want to understand, how you navigated those transitions, because I'm sure, like, as you were trying to figure out what you want to do next, that's difficult. And you had several different types of roles that weren't necessarily related, but you successfully transitioned into different roles and ultimately here. So you talk a little bit about how you did that?
No, that's a great question. And I think a lot of it has to do with self-awareness, right? Knowing what you're good at, what you like and what you don't like. For me, I don't really like being stuck in a room where I do the same thing over and over, like dealing with numbers. I would be an awful accountant, right? Or a lawyer, just reading through a lot of paperwork. For me, I knew that I worked at my best when I saw the results in the people that I worked with, right? So a lot of my joy comes from seeing the joy in other people. Like a teacher, when they teach and it clicks in someone's head and they get joy from it, I get joy from that as well. So all the jobs that I did was working directly with people, saying like, okay, we're going to sit down, we're going to figure this out together, or I can provide this for you and supply that need. So I could see those results right away. So all of my jobs had something more or less to do with me working directly with people, seeing the impact of my labor, and how that rippled into the other people that they then were able to help along the way. So MVP is no different. I help students. I get to see them land the job, grow within, the internship process or with their mentor. And then I also see how they say, I'm going to turn around and do this for other people too. I love that. That means that I'm doing my job. When they say, I hope to be the type of person that you were for me, for someone else, I did my job. I think that's phenomenal. That has such rippling effects. And that helps me wake up in the morning. So it doesn't matter what job I do, I can transition into it if it has kind of those elements.
Can I just build one connection in you saying that, which is, you talked about going to seminary and, that was going to be your trajectory for a while, right? And you made a shift. But even though that wasn't the ultimate role that you took, in many ways, the qualities, right, that comes with that is what you're talking about right now in this role. So you're just showing that when you focus on when you focus on what you like to do and you pull those skills out, you can transition to any role, right? Yeah.
It's also, being open-minded, right? There's a lot of people that are like, I want to be this and that's all I'm going to be and so on and so forth and get really stuck in it. And that's okay. If that's you, then pursue your dream. If that's your dream, then pursue it. But I think, at least for me, it was helpful that I was open-minded and I could roll into different things and take experiences and just reapply them. Like I did a lot of preaching and did a lot of preaching classes in my time. So now when we have MVP events, I talk for a little bit and I'm comfortable doing that and speaking to an audience, engaging as much as I can. And I reminisce, unlike the pastor days of using my hands a lot, and, pointing at people, things like so. It all just comes back.
Oh, that's fantastic. But so Miguel, let me ask you this: how do you identify, right? And how has that identity affected you positively or otherwise during your transitions? Right.
So identify. What do you mean by that?
So I identify as a Black Caribbean woman, right? And so when I think about my experiences in the world, it's through that lens. And, a lot of the things that I talk about is, I have these unique experiences because of how I view myself, but also how other people view me through history as well. So as a person of color, how has that affected you in your career, if at all?
Yeah, it's It's hard. I think with every person of color, we all kind of go through a journey where we decide, okay, and I think most people that I've interacted with, I'm going to learn more about my heritage, my background, my family. And for me, that was a tough journey, to be honest. Being Puerto Rican or Puerto Rican American, even that term just seems really clunky and weird because of the history of Puerto Rico. We are a part of the United States,
Correct.
but not really. We're not really independent, and we're not a state. And our history has been just a lot of colonization, a lot of dark times, throughout the history. And so it's hard to reconcile that and to live in a country that has both benefited Puerto Rico and treated it really poorly. I kind of liken it to abusive relationship where maybe the partner doesn't leave because they feel comfortable or secure in that relationship and don't think that they can go out on their own and gain independence. They're a little dependent on the main provider, but still feeling that abuse from time to time. So it's hard. And I think, when I apply that to my work, there are a lot of, especially students that I work with, that have yet to go on that journey, or they're going in through that journey right now. They're in college. They're becoming more and more educated. They're asking better and better questions. A good education will teach you how to ask good questions. And so they're asking more questions. And so bringing my own journey and my own experience and pain and learnings into the way that I speak with students and just allowing them to go at their own pace and learn, I think has impacted my work for sure. For sure.
Thank you for answering that, because I think it's important for the students to see themselves reflected and also know that the person leading the organization understands some of the unique challenges they may go through in their career.
Right.
Bob, I'll turn it over.
Miguel, one of the things that the board is so happy with in your performance.
Right here.
Right, we're doing it now. Okay, this is what the episode's about. I should have seen this coming. When I got the invite, I was like, "Oh, this is the performance value." Cool.
Yeah, sip that water because it's what's coming next.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
You might need a minute to gather yourself.
You think it's water? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And then, well done. It is Friday. You've been really successful in connecting MVP students, MVP fellows with internships, and then working with industry to help them see the benefit of having candidates walk through the door and apply for positions or internships that they typically wouldn't have access to, or find ways to gain that access. And so what are you learning in that process? What advice do you have for young professionals of color as they start to embark on their journey? And what are these organizations looking for other than diversity? Does it go beyond diversity?
There's a lot in there to unpack. And I guess I'll start backwards. And if I miss anything, please let me know. I think in my experience, companies are, when it comes to interns and college students, they're not expecting the world. They're not expecting someone to come in and be able to do the job right off the bat. But what they are expecting is a certain level of soft skills, right? An interest to engage, communication, and an eagerness to actually, do the best that they can. I think just those raw elements, if they can package that and communicate that well to the person that they're interviewing with or the internship that they're a part of, I think the company would really love to see that, and they would see them as a really good intern, I think, overall. To be able to land these internships are not easy for students. I can tell all the connections that they have are within academia. And a lot of the professors and people there have been there for decades, and they don't have a lot of the connections to the industries as the students might want or need. So MVP is in a great position to bring in the companies that we work with on a regular basis, and be able to offer opportunities to these students, paid internship opportunities, which to a person of color is very unique, because a lot of us, at a younger age, can't afford to take on an internship that is free. We just have contributions we need to make.
Yep.
We need bills that we need to pay. We need to, we just don't have money coming out of nowhere most of the time, just statistically. And so we make sure that the partnerships that we have, that there are paid internships, they are paid by the companies. So yeah, we try to do our best to do right by the intern. And by the end of it, they grow. They have more experience. They've met and networked with a lot more people than they would have otherwise. Their resumes are a little bit bulkier. And so yeah, we constitute that as a huge win.
In the students that typically are selected, what are the attributes that you're seeing? Are you seeing any common threads?
Yeah,
with the individual?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, a lot of them are, again, able to communicate their experiences and their desires well. Communication is so key. You can have it on a piece of paper, but if you can't talk to someone face to face and say, this is what I'm about, or this is what I'm looking for, and someone else can, they'll get the job more times than not. You can be shy, and if that's your thing, that's okay. But when the time comes for you to speak, if you need to prepare something ahead of time, take 5 minutes and say, this is me. Write down 5 bullet points about yourself that you really want to get across during your interview. Once you have that ready, and if something resembles a question that you have that answer to, then spew off 1, 2, 3 of those 5 points. Even if you're introverted, even if you're quiet, just trying to master that skill would help. It would go a long, long way for that student, for sure.
And Miguel, can you talk a little bit about how MVP preps students to do just that?
We do. So even with the internship stuff, we source a lot of students. But I personally, we have a volunteer also. We have staff that look through your resume, help you build your resume out before we present it to the company. We meet with you for 30 minutes and say, these are kind of the questions you might be asked, and try to prepare this or that. And then on top of that, we have workshops. We do workshops every single month on skills. The first year of the fellowship program is focused just on professional development. It's resume building. It is mock interviews. It is all that good stuff in 1 year to get you ready for these jobs. The second year is all about leadership. So we have people doing public speaking, negotiation skills. So when you land your first job, you're not taking the first thing that comes to you, but saying, am I being valued correctly? Is this worth it? How do I ask for what I believe I should be getting?
Right.
And then in your third year, we really talk about giving back. We do workshops on social justice, activism. So we believe in education. We not only want to give students an opportunity, but also help develop them and grow professionally along the way, so that when they do land these jobs, they feel more ready than they would otherwise.
And on the flip side of that, right, for the hiring companies, what is your advice to them in sourcing great internships, sourcing diverse candidates, even working with MVP?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I would tell companies, and I'm just going to be very blunt about it, is look beyond your small network. Look beyond your small network. And really what I mean by that is I've heard a lot of the companies say, well, all of our interns right now are just, references from other coworkers. And most of our coworkers are white. And so all of their recommendations are also white. So if they're looking for more diverse candidates, you need to go beyond just your employee base. And there are a lot of nonprofits like MVP or other places that you can look to start saying, okay, you can go into a job fair. You can really be more active about searching for that talent. And then taking on these interviews with candidates that maybe are not exactly what you're looking for, but take them on, listen to what they have to say, and they might be a better fit than you think. Maybe they're just not good at writing resumes. And so really just take a chance on certain people and see where that can go. That would be my recommendation to some companies. Really do more of a diligence in your search, because they're out there. There's diverse talent out there for sure.
Yeah. And they might not have had the same exposure, right? So I love that concept of take a chance on someone. It's not that you are decreasing your criteria anyway. It's just that you're opening up the aperture and thinking about a different way of looking at people, a different skill set that might add value.
Absolutely. And I think that, with a lot of jobs, at least for myself, when I look at myself in a leadership position, right, I'm not just looking for people to come on and perform. I want to be able to bring someone on and say, okay, this person has so much potential in all these areas. My job is not only to get them to do the tasks that I need them to do, but also to set a path for their growth. So that if they're with me for 1, 2, 3 years, by the end of the third year, they have learned so much throughout that time. They've grown so much throughout that time. When you take on more of a teacher perspective, when you're doing the hiring, you'll see the potential, and that'll pay. That'll pay in the long run. You'll save money keeping this person on your staff than continually hiring and trying to train new people month after month, year after year, if you just invest in other people instead of being so, profit driven.
Yeah.
One of the other things that you've done a great job with is helping us continue to fuel the mentorship program and having mentors, selecting mentors, matching MVP students, MVP fellows with the right mentor. Any advice or thoughts about the mentorship program and as you bring on new MVP fellows, anything that they should consider as they embark in working with a mentor for 6 months or a year?
Yeah, I love the mentorship program, and it's the number one thing that all the students say that are the most valuable thing that MVP can offer is a mentor. That human to human connection, to be able to listen to them personally where they are, talk about career and life. It is the number one thing that they can get from it. And if you want to be an MVP fellow, you can apply at our website. We're currently recruiting. Just a quick plug for that. I can talk forever about the mentorship program. But honestly, I would love to hear Karen a little bit, because Karen has also been a mentor. Karen, do you have any insights on what the mentor experience was like for you and some of the benefits that you've gotten from it?
Well, absolutely. I'll first start with, I wish there was something like that for me when I was young. That was a million years ago. And I wish that I understood the value of it, right? But I also know that one of the barriers for me is because, I was extremely shy and introverted, was how do I find a mentor and who's going to want to mentor me, this, 20-something, I have nothing to offer them. I actually made it more about me, rather in terms of, why would you want to spend time with me, rather than, thinking about, maybe there are people who are actually thinking about paying it forward, right? And would think that I'm a great candidate. And so that was number one. I wanted to do it because I wished that I had that opportunity. I also had a mentee, or have a mentee. She jokes that she forced herself on me, but I don't know, it's 15 or something years, and we formed this fantastic relationship. And, it's really great to watch her growth over all these years. And so when I was approached by another board member of MVP to become a mentor, I was like, absolutely, yes. I knew about other mentorship programs, but this one was more dear to my heart because it is people of color. And, I again understand the unique challenges that we face. And so I have she's still my mentee, no matter if the program, the run is over or not, right? And it's just a really, look, it's twofold. One, I think for her, it's great to build her network. It's great to have another person to talk to that is seemingly objective, that is really there for you to see you win, right? That's actually the goal. The other advantage is to the mentor, right? Yeah. Because you are gaining new perspective through a different generation's eyes, and all the things that you thought you knew are challenged by, tomorrow's future. And being a part of that, I think, is really important. And so I think it's mutually beneficial. She is now part of my network that I can leverage, right? It's not just a two-way street. It's not just seasoned people. You need to just, revere us. No, I want to know the young people too, because they're going to help me do what I need to do and just be better all the way around. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, Karen. And I think you're absolutely right. A lot of the students, having a mentor is something that they don't know that they need until they have it. And then they're just like, how did I go without this? And I always want to have a mentor. I think that a lot of students are really focused on graduate, just get A's, graduate, that they don't see the value in starting to build your network for your life, for your career, One of my mentors that I've had growing up, she was a librarian in college, and that really kickstarted my whole library career. She's coming to my wedding. I'm getting married in August, and she's going to be there.
Yeah.
So these are relationships
congrats.
that are so worth it. And so if you're a student and you are listening to this, and you don't know where to get a mentor, contact us. We'll help you get one. Trust me, it will change your life. And I think Bob can attest. Bob learned about ChatGPT through his mentor.
It's true. It's true. And then it's so true, right? And then when I roll back 20 years or more, an intern that was part of an organization I was co-founder of showed me this crazy thing called the World Wide Web. Right. So one night he's like, "Hey, you want to grab a pizza? I want to show you something." I'm like, "Sure." This is the World Wide Web. And that night we went to the Louvre, and we went and saw a NASA satellite somewhere, and we went and I knew in that moment, like, this is gonna change everything. And we changed the direction and trajectory of the company. We turned that advertising agency into a web development firm and marketing firm focused on digital transformation.
Nice.
And it came from someone that had, an intern. So I completely agree with both of you that the internship, the value of a mentorship, and the value of having a mentee and a mentor is that it goes both ways.
Yeah.
That door swings both ways without question. As long as the mentor is open and asks good questions and is ready to receive the value.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just giving, but it's two-way street.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Because a momentum is, to me, it's in the logo too, but it's a cyclical thing. It's circular, and that's how you build value along that pathway. So it's not a one-way conversation at all. So yeah, I just want to go back to something you said earlier because I'm like super interested.
Sure.
What instruments did you play?
Oh, I thought you were going to go back to the religion. I was sweating for a second. I was like, whoa.
Listen, we sing in church too. So, the music part is important. All right.
Yeah, it is. It is. I started playing guitar when I was 10. And honestly, it was through someone that I had seen in church. He had like long hair and he was like studying Japanese. And I thought he was so cool. And all the grandmas were like, look at this kid. He needs to cut his hair. And I thought he was so rebellious. And he played guitar. He played electric and he was phenomenal and really inspired me. And so I started playing guitar. And then I went to high school for music. So I studied music 3 hours a day. And I learned piano, I learned drums, I learned bass. What else? I played trombone as a major in college. So a lot of like jazz and concert trombone. I just loved picking up different things. And I thought I was going to be like music education for a little bit. I loved performance. That was kind of my music journey for a little bit. Yeah.
Wow, trombone.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Are you still playing, as a hobby?
I do have a guitar, and I fiddle once in a while. I do need to get a piano. I would love to do that, but it's been a while. It's been a while since someone tried to someone invited me to play in their wedding band, and I got excited, and I was like, that would kind of be fun. And then I have very little time to like rehearse and then like go to these weddings and things.
Right.
So it would be hard, but music's a fun thing.
I have a friend that he plays it, and I forget what kind of drum it is, but it's from South Asian culture, Indian culture. And so now he, in addition to his job, he goes around and he plays, at all these different weddings, right? And he's like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. So I think you need to revisit this.
Yeah, you may want to revisit it.
Because we could play a little bit on this show.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
We do play some zingers, and as a former trombone player, we'll have to connect later, and I'll share all the trombone jokes my drummer friends like to lob my way on a regular basis.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
I know.
To be honest, I didn't want to play trombone. To be completely honest, I went up to the band instructor and I was like, I want to learn a horn because I don't know how to play horn. It looks fun, like any kind of horn. And he was like, what do you want to learn? I was like, trumpet. He was like, I don't have any more of those. He totally lied to me. I was like, how about saxophone? Maybe some woodwind. He's like, no, I don't have any more. I was like, what do you have? And he was like, oh, well, we need a trombone player in the band. I was like, you manipulative. Fine.
Oh, that's really
So
funny.
that's how I got into it. Yeah.
Miguel, as we wrap up for today, thanks so much for telling us about your journey and how you bring a lot of what you learned to the position and everything you've done for MVP. When you think about when you were just either entering college or exiting school, is there anything that you wish you knew at that point? If you could write that letter and send it to the 22-year-old you, what would be in the letter?
That was such a different time in my life. I feel like I've lived multiple lives with all the things that has happened. It's so hard. The first thing, honestly, that comes to mind is it's going to be okay. I think that there's a lot of confusion and fear about the future and will I make it or will I make enough? Or, there's so much fear when it comes to graduating that it's just going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And the second is, don't be afraid to find people, to really look for people, even if it means randomly, hitting people up on LinkedIn, 10 people on LinkedIn, because that, I learned that later where I was just like, I'm going for this job. Let me just reach out to 10 people that work in similar positions just to call them and ask them, how did you do it? And things like that really changed things for me. And people did respond. And same with Karen, like, why would they want to talk to me? But you'd be surprised. There are so many people that are looking to give back, that want to help someone else. I think that's innate in a lot of us. And so really tap into human beings. I think we're really isolated in this country right now, but everyone wants that connection. So try to reach out. And if you don't know how, go to mvpoc.org and apply to be a fellow, apply to be a mentor. If you want to be a host company and bring on interns, reach out to me. We need to connect with one another. I think that's really important. That'll really help with the fear of the future if we're all going into the future together. That's that would be kind of my two-part advice. It's going to be okay, and find other people.
Okay, so I'm going to do my wrap up of what I heard. Okay, so number one, tell me if I got it right. Focus on skills transfer, and you can transition to anything. Right? When you do get an interview, make sure you are interviewing the company and be transparent, honest, and vulnerable during that interview so people can get to really know you, right? Yeah. Soft skills are important. That's engagement, communications, and explain your experiences and your desires, and also demonstrate your eagerness. Yeah. You don't know that you need a mentor until you have one, right? Your future will be okay. Network, network, network. And finally, I think you got an A+ on your performance review, Miguel.
Oh, good. What a relief.
A 5-star performance review.
So good. What a fun way to do a performance review. I think all companies should do that. Hey, come on our podcast that we just invented. We'll ask you some questions for fun.
Miguel, thanks for everything you do for MVP, everything you do for the MVP Fellows, and everything you're bringing to the world. You certainly are adding a lot of good, and we really appreciate you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you for putting this podcast together, all the work that you guys are doing. And I love working with you guys. So I really appreciate you both. Thank you.
Thanks, Miguel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Karen. You're the best.